right, guys. Hey, I'm Chipocrite. I'm having some interesting technical difficulties, but it just means that this is going to be the best set I've ever had. Here we go.
I started, formally playing music or making music when I was about 12. I'm 32 right now, so actually, wow, about 20 years. I started on guitar in about 6th grade. I had a bunch of friends playing music together, and we were doing jamming and being in bands and stuff together, and kind of like by default, I became the guy who became the bass player. Sort of at first because no one else would, but I was really happy that I did it because it became my more serious instrument. And it wasn't really until, like 4 or 5 years ago that I really wanted to do solo stuff somehow, and I've always been into a lot of electronic musicians. Probably my biggest electronic influence is Square Pusher. He has a way of making electronic music that sounds really human. It's very organic, although it's made by machines, and before I even had any idea how to do that myself, I heard what he was doing and I was just like, I'm gonna do that someday. Once I found a tool for making electronic music that I connected with, I kind of never looked back. And that was, for me, it was the Game Boy. And the software that runs on the Game Boy is called Little Sound DJ or LSDJ. As soon as I kind of saw it and figured out how it worked, it just became this thing that I kind of became obsessed with. And really without even thinking about it or realizing it, it was just like, this is what I want to do. I would never have gotten started if it weren't for 8 Static. The very first one that I went to, there was a workshop before the show even started. This guy, Animal Style, gave this like 15 to 20 minute presentation on how to use LSDJ, and it just clicked. It was like, I get it, I love it. I went home, I started using it that night, and I haven't stopped. I look at music kind of like sculpting. You have the song and idea in your head, And I imagine it's similar to like a sculptor when he sees this block of marble or something in front of him and he knows what the ultimate thing is going to look like, but it requires just so much chiseling. And like at the beginning it's like huge chunks, but by the end you're just kind of like making these like tiny little things. I feel like a song is exactly the same way. Like I had this thing in my head, I know what it's supposed to sound like, and I just make all these decisions until it gets as close to that as it possibly can. And there's definitely a point where it's just like, that's it. The advice that I always give people, and this isn't just for Game Boy stuff, but it's for anything, like, always take yourself seriously. Always put your best foot forward. You know, you can, like, it's a silly thing. It's a Game Boy, you know, it's a toy, basically. It was meant to be a toy, but in spite of that, like, all the musical opportunities I've ever had, I've had the best and most exciting and most lucrative doing Game Boy stuff and doing something unique and interesting like this. So just kind of like take it seriously, take yourself seriously, be proud of it, and other people will notice and do the same.